Why does awakening make you feel more alone than connected? Why does growth feel like you're losing touch with everyone else? You'd think awakening would feel like a celebration, like finally breaking out of the fog, finally getting things clear. But instead, something strange happens. The world doesn't look the same. People don't sound the same. Conversations that once felt comforting now feel hollow. You're not trying to be judgmental, and you're not above anyone. But something's changed. You sit across from a friend, and they're talking about the same weekend plans, the same gossip, the same complaints. And suddenly, your body tightens. You nod, you smile. But inside, you feel completely disconnected, like you're on a different planet. No, a different frequency. And that's the part no one warns you about. That the more awakened you become, the lonelier it might feel, at least at first. So why does this happen? Why do people drain you when all you've done is grow? This isn't about being antisocial. It's not burnout. It's not misanthropy. Carl Jung, the legendary Swiss psychiatrist, understood this spiritual fatigue way before anyone put it into words. He didn't just call it awakening, he called it individuation, a psychological and spiritual evolution, and it comes with unexpected costs. In this video, we're going to explore why human interaction changes after spiritual awakening, why you start to crave depth over noise, and why surface-level conversations feel like sandpaper on your soul. But we're not going to talk about this in abstract theories. We're going to explore the real, visceral human side of this, the inner conflict, the guilt, the grief, and the rebirth that can come after. So if you've ever felt drained after hanging out with people you used to love, if you've ever wondered, why does everyone feel so loud, so asleep, so far away? Stay with me, because by the time we're done, you'll realize you're not crazy. You're awakening. And Carl Jung left us breadcrumbs to understand exactly what's happening to you. Jung believed that most people are wearing a mask. Not in a manipulative way, but as a survival instinct. That mask, he called the persona. It's who we think we need to be accepted. It's the role we play. We wear it at work, around family, even with friends. And for a while, that mask helps us feel safe, loved, understood. But awakening is what happens when the persona starts cracking. Something in you starts whispering, there's more than this. You start to ask uncomfortable questions. You start saying no to things that once felt automatic. And the deeper you go, the more obvious it becomes. Many of your relationships were built around your persona, not your authentic self. So when that mask slips off, some connections simply can't survive. That's why you feel tired. Not because people are bad, but because who you were is no longer there to meet them. And here's where it gets heavier. Your nervous system is still wired to play the old role. You walk into a room, and you instinctively prepare to shrink, to please, to entertain, to agree, just to avoid tension. But your soul is screaming for truth, for alignment and realness. And that tension between your conditioning and your consciousness, that's what drains you. That's what burns you out socially. Not the people, but the parts of you that are no longer willing to pretend. The truth is, awakening isn't about escaping others. It's about integrating your wholeness, so you can finally relate in a way that doesn't cost your energy. And this is where Carl Jung's concept of the shadow comes in. The term shadow sounds dark, maybe even scary, but it's not evil, it's just unseen. It's all the parts of ourselves we've been taught to hide, deny, or disown. It's our jealousy, our anger, our fear, but also, surprisingly, our potential, our brilliance, our intuitive power, our sacred no. The shadow isn't just your darkness, it's your wholeness waiting for light. And when you awaken, you start to see the shadow, not only in yourself, but in others too. And it's overwhelming. Conversations that once seemed harmless now feel loaded with unconscious energy. You feel what people aren't saying, you hear what's beneath their words, their pain, their projections and their masks. And you realize, most interactions aren't really between two people. They're between two personas. Two carefully curated performances, trying to keep peace, avoid discomfort, and stay liked. And when your soul awakens, you just can't play that game anymore. Not because you're better than anyone, but because your body starts rejecting what's false. It literally feels heavy, suffocating, exhausting. It's like trying to breathe in a room with no windows. You need truth like oxygen now. Authenticity becomes your only nourishment. And here's where it gets personal. You start to recognize your shadow in others. That friend who always needs to be right. Maybe that was you once. That colleague who needs validation constantly. Maybe that's the part of you you're still healing. The people who trigger you most often are mirrors, reflecting the very parts of yourself that haven't fully integrated yet. Jung said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." And it's uncomfortable, because your awakening is showing you the truth in layers. At first, it seems like others are the problem. Then, you realize you were just like them. Then, you understand you still are. But you're evolving. You're choosing awareness. And that's what makes the difference. But the danger in awakening is spiritual ego. Thinking you're the enlightened one and everyone else is asleep. That's not growth. That's just another mask. Real awakening means compassion. For yourself, for others, and for the younger version of you who needed those old patterns to survive. It's in that compassion that healing begins, that fatigue lessens, that your energy becomes less about protecting yourself and more about honoring who you are. And guess what? As you integrate more of your shadow, you stop needing to distance yourself so much, because you're no longer fighting your own reflection in others. And now, we'll explore how emotional sensitivity and overstimulation tie into this awakening fatigue, and why your nervous system plays a much bigger role than you think. If you've ever felt like you're too sensitive, too empathetic, or too aware, this will be a game changer. Here's something not many people talk about when it comes to awakening. It's not just psychological or spiritual, it's physiological too. Your body, especially your nervous system, is undergoing an upgrade. And that comes with consequences. For most of your life, your nervous system adapted to chaos, noise, pressure, and pretense. You became used to emotional static, like background noise that never quite goes away. And that noise conditioned you to stay on alert, to scan the room, to keep the peace, to read the energy. Especially if you're an empath or highly sensitive person, this was your survival mechanism. You didn't just listen to people, you absorbed them. You didn't just notice moods, you felt them. You became a sponge for other people's emotional weather systems. And that kind of vigilance takes a massive toll over time. Now, add awakening to that. Awakening amplifies your perception. You don't just notice surface energy. You begin to sense dissonance, misalignment, manipulation, even if it's unintentional. You pick up on unsaid things, micro-expressions, energy mismatches, and your nervous system goes into overdrive because it doesn't yet know how to process this new level of awareness. It hasn't caught up with your consciousness, so it keeps reacting the old way. Tension, fatigue, emotional flooding, and the need to withdraw. And that's the part no one tells you. Awakening doesn't feel like sitting peacefully on a mountaintop. It often feels like sensory overload in a crowded room. Even a normal conversation can feel like static in your brain if your body hasn't learned how to regulate in this new awareness. And this leads many awakened souls to mistake themselves as broken. You're not broken. You're just not numb anymore. You're finally feeling what was always there, but filtered out by conditioning. And that can be exhausting. You're not too sensitive. You're accurately sensitive. You're finally tuned into life at its rawest setting. But here's the beautiful part. As your nervous system learns to co-regulate with your higher awareness, the overwhelm fades. The emotional spikes lessen. You begin to discern without absorbing. You begin to feel with people, not for them. You begin to observe without personalizing. And that's when social interaction becomes sacred again. You stop needing to shrink. You stop needing to armor up. You just stay anchored in your energy. and let others be where they are. So what happens after the fatigue, the rebalancing, and the new type of relationships you begin to attract? And how do you engage with others from your true self, not from guilt, duty, or habit? Something beautiful and honestly liberating. The moment you stop performing, something shifts. You're no longer choosing connections out of survival, you're choosing from resonance. You're not people-pleasing to avoid conflict, you're honoring your truth, even when it's uncomfortable. You're not staying to be liked, you're staying where you feel seen. It's subtle, but powerful. Instead of seeking safety in others, you start to become the safety you once needed. Carl Jung believed that integration, not perfection, is the goal of psychological wholeness. That means bringing together your conscious self, your unconscious patterns, your shadow, your light, your wounds, your wisdom, all of it. Not to be flawless, but to be authentic. And from that authenticity, your relationships transform. You'll notice that you begin attracting people who speak your energetic language, who don't drain you, because they're not asking you to shrink, who don't project their pain onto you, but hold space for yours too. These are soul-aligned connections, and often, they start to appear after a season of solitude. That solitude wasn't loneliness. It was your field clearing itself, making room, recalibrating your energetic boundaries. When you're in the thick of awakening, it's common to feel like something's wrong because you don't relate to people the way you used to. But here's the truth. You're not meant to relate the same. You're meant to relate from a deeper place now, from presence, clarity, and alignment. And that changes everything. You stop matching other people's energy to keep the peace. You let your peace guide the dynamic. You stop proving your worth. You embody it. You